Hello, how are you doing? It's Jasmine. 皆さん、こんにちは。ジャスミンです。今日もビッキーと一緒にいろいろお話ししていきたいなと思うんですけど、今日は英語を教えてて、何かちょっと失敗したこととか、ちょっと難しかったこととか、そういうのを聞いていきたいなと思います。では、ビッキー呼んでみましょう。Hi, Vicky.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thanks. And you?
I'm good, thank you.
So today we're going to talk about difficulties in teaching English. Did you have any difficulties in teaching English?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first started, I had quite a few difficulties.
Hmm. For example,
So, for example, I think the biggest difficulty was teaching grammar because I'm a native speaker, so I don't really think about English grammar. I just speak and I know what sounds natural, I know what doesn't sound natural.
mhm,
So it was difficult to teach the difference between, for example, past simple tense, I did,
mhm,
and present perfect tense, I have done.
mhm.
And in a lot of languages, they don't have the present perfect tense, I have done.
Right.
So I had to think about, okay, what situations do I use the present perfect tense? And I have to explain to my students, in this situation, you use past simple, I did. In these situations, I have done present perfect.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, it's really difficult for Japanese to understand present perfect tense. Do you think it's important to study grammar for teaching English?
Yes, I do, especially at the beginning. I think it's important because sometimes students will ask you difficult grammar questions. And when I was first teaching English, I hated it when students asked me difficult grammar questions. I would have to think about it for a long time. And there were some times when I had to say, I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm gonna do some research and I will give you the answer next lesson.
Some native teachers don't understand grammar, and I heard some teachers said, "Oh, don't ask me grammar questions."
Oof, okay. Well, if they're an
That's
English teacher,
Japanese.
then of course you're going to ask them grammar questions.
Yeah, so grammar question is very difficult to answer. Mm. So maybe you know the grammar and you
Mhm.
understand the grammar, but explaining is difficult, right?
It is, yeah, it is.
So my grammar skill increased by teaching English.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, if you teach something, then you understand it more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Teaching is the best way of studying.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. How about you? Did you have any difficulties teaching English?
Well, yes, I had lots of difficulties when I was new. Actually, one student really hated me. And in my class, she ignored me a lot. So I asked some English question, but she ignored. And
That is so rude.
but maybe she hated me. At that time, being cheerful is the best, I thought. But
I quite agree. I don't see any problem with that.
but but maybe she wanted to have the more serious class like cram school. Maybe for her, I was too noisy.
Well, I disagree. I think you can have a cheerful class and be serious at the same time.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, like she can learn a lot and be in a cheerful environment.
Yeah, that was my saddest experience.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's a horrible experience.
I almost cried when she didn't answer at all. And I asked again and again, but she ignored me.
I'm really sorry that that happened to you. But I think you make a good point. You have to have a good relationship between the student and the teacher, and sometimes it doesn't happen. You can be a really, really good teacher, and I know you are a good teacher.
Thank you.
But yeah, unfortunately, not everybody is gonna connect with you.
You're right. And from that experience, I learned that I should match my student, not always be cheerful. So sometimes be serious, sometimes cheerful. So it's good experience for me now.
Okay, when you said that, that reminded me of another difficulty that I had. Talking about matching your teaching style to the students. So I used to work at Berlitz in Tokyo. And the difficult point was that we had many different kinds of students. So we would have children, young kids, business students, university students, different kind of people. So sometimes what would happen is I would have one lesson and it would be a kids lesson, young kids, dancing, playing games, singing the ABC song. And then the next lesson, I would be teaching business English to the CEO of Mitsubishi or something like that. And it would be like the change was really difficult to deal with. I had to like change my mind, like change my way of teaching to fit the business lesson.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Do you have any other difficulties?
Yeah, another difficult point is teaching students aspects of English which the students don't have in their native language. So, for example, in English, we have the idea of countable nouns, uncountable nouns, and many languages have that as well. But in Japanese, Chinese, also Korean, you don't have that. And that's quite difficult to explain what the difference is, basically.
Yeah, countable and uncountable now are really difficult for Japanese. And also the how to count, like a bar of chocolate.
Oh, yes, a bar of chocolate, a jar of jam, a loaf of bread, etc.
A cup of coffee is easy to understand.
Yeah.
But a loaf of bread, we don't usually buy a loaf.
Okay, we do.
Really?
Yes. If we buy bread, we get a loaf from the supermarkets.
And we usually have the bread, a sliced bread, right? So a sliced bread is easy to understand, but a loaf of bread, it's really difficult to remember.
I recommend remembering it if you go to the UK or America or somewhere like that. It's a useful word to remember because, yeah, people do usually buy bread in a big loaf like that.
How about a head of cabbage?
A head of cabbage, yeah. That sounds a bit formal.
Really? You don't say that?
People do, yeah, people do, but it sounds a bit formal. Usually we would just think of it as countable and just say one cabbage.
Really?
Yeah, one cabbage, two cabbages, three cabbages.
When I heard a head of cabbage, I felt really weird.
It's weird, isn't it? It's like a head. Yeah. I guess because it's round like a head.
Maybe. It's formal. I didn't know that. Thank you, Vicky. So today we talked about the difficulties in teaching English. Okay, see you next time. Keep on smiling. Bye.
See you. Bye.
ご視聴ありがとうございました。Thank you for watching. よかったらチャンネル登録してくださいね。Don't forget to subscribe. 英語の先生になりたいママへ公式 LINE お友達登録で4大特典プレゼントを実施中。特典の詳細は概要欄見てくださいね。ビッキーの YouTube チャンネルもあるよ。検索か概要欄のリンクを見てください。